Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the THW NHL News and Rumors Rundown. My name is Jim Parsons. I'm here with thehockeyraiders.com. We got a bunch of information to go through now that the NHL trade deadline has come and gone. We're going to be talking about some of the things that did happen, some of the trades that didn't, and then we'll get into some other news and rumors as the NHL regular season starts to wind itself down. So let's start with some of the things that did happen. The big one is, of course, Taylor Hall was moved. He was traded to the Boston Bruins. Lots of talk about where he might wind up. Boston was in on Hall early and then kind of wasn't. The Sabres couldn't get the first round pick they were looking for, so Boston got themselves back into the conversation, ended up giving up a second. Anders Bjork goes back to Buffalo. Some other pieces like Curtis Lazar comes as well. But so far, so good. Taylor Hall's got a couple goals in Boston already, matching his output for the entire season in Buffalo. One thing we did hear was that the Edmonton Oilers were never in on Taylor Hall. Holland didn't explicitly say anything about Taylor Hall because he can't talk about other teams, other players on other teams. But he did really hint that he wasn't in the conversation, and when asked if he was ever looking at a third team to facilitate a trade for salary cap reasons, he said no immediately. He just cut off a reporter saying nope, wasn't even something they were doing. The Oilers did add one piece in Dmitry Kulikov for their blue line. He'll join the team sometime later this month. But they weren't really looking to make a bunch of moves because they didn't have the cap space. They tried a couple things with a few forwards, but nothing really panned out for Edmonton. One player that didn't get moved was Ryan Getzlaf. There was some talk about maybe the Anaheim Ducks looking to do something. It was about 50-50 at best. One team that Ryan Getzlaf did say was sort of involved in the conversations were the Vegas Golden Knights, that he would have accepted a deal to go to Vegas, but it didn't work out. He's happy enough to stay in Anaheim. The expectation now is probably that he'll sign one-year deals to kind of close out his NHL career, sticking with the Ducks. A trade that did happen, Anthony Mantha goes from the Detroit Red Wings to the Washington Capitals for Jacob Vrana and a bunch of other pieces. The big deal here is that it sounds like both Mantha and Vrana were in their respective doghouses of their teams. Not so much that Mantha wasn't experiencing, success in Detroit. He was having not a fantastic season, but Vrana was definitely not on Washington's, positive list. So they moved him to Detroit. Detroit's thinking that Vrana could be a really good piece, and Anthony Mantha's locked in long term. Washington gets some cap certainty here, which they like. Vrana will get an extension in Detroit at some point here. We're not really sure. Toronto was very busy. David Rittich wound up going to the Maple Leafs from the Calgary Flames, so they get their backup goaltender to kind of cement the fact that Frederik Andersen will not be coming back here before the end of the regular season, but he should be available in the playoffs. And of course, the big one, Nick Foligno, goes to Toronto from the Columbus Blue Jackets. There were three teams involved here, retention of salary, which has caught some NHL executives, I wouldn't say off guard, but some of them are not very happy with the fact that so much salary was retained. He goes from over $5 million to like 1.3 something, and some execs are not really happy that this is being allowed. But the NHL doesn't care. They're like, there's no money out of the system. The players went places, money went places. It's all fine. So expect a lot of these trades to happen in the future, especially for cap-strapped teams like Toronto, who need to be creative and do some really, kind of ingenious stuff to make the cap work for them. Foligno was just one of those examples. There'll probably be some more of that in the future. A name that we've heard about that was very interesting, Tony Deangelo. There was some talk in New York that he and the Rangers would terminate his contract and that maybe the Montreal Canadiens were interested in picking up Deangelo. It didn't pan out. It didn't work. What it eventually was said to have happened was that Deangelo declined the contract termination and would rather be bought out in the summer. What we're finding out now is Larry Brooks is saying that it was actually Deangelo's camp who came up with the idea of terminating the contract, but the caveat here was that he would get a deal with another team. That team being the Montreal Canadiens, to make him whole on his contract loss and the money he'd be giving up. But I guess the term that Montreal was offering for Deangelo wasn't to his liking, so he eventually went back to the idea of being bought out. There's some speculation that Jack Eichel might be heading out of Buffalo. Now, here's a player who's on the injury list. He's probably going to have some off-season surgery scheduled for a herniated disc in his neck. The chalk and the chatter has not quieted about Eichel going to potentially the Los Angeles Kings. A couple of reports suggest that he's out there. The latest from Darren Dreger, saying that he's heard some teams are interested, Los Angeles being among them. Just speculation at this point that he won't be back with Buffalo. But it's interesting that there's trade talk still while the injury thing is going on. And in Vancouver, there's lots of stuff going on here, man. Between the COVID stuff, their return to play, their delay in coming back to the return to play, but starting again on Sunday versus the Maple Leafs, to injuries with Elias Pettersson, who may not be coming back at the end of this or for the rest of this season. Then, of course, to contract talks about Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. There's some speculation that Jim Benning doesn't think he's going to have any cap issues whatsoever, but I don't know how you could think that, considering some of the contracts they have in the books and the cap that they'll have to clear out. Plus, they already gave deals to Thatcher Demko and Tanner Pearson, and so there's a lot to be done in Vancouver here over the next little while. Pettersson being at the top of that list. He hasn't had the best season for Elias Pettersson standards, but he could be getting a bridge deal at some pretty decent money. But is he, a long-term double-digit hockey player? Is he rank up there, the center duos between him and Bo Horvat and some of the other teams in the North Division? Who knows? Guess we'll find out. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Just a quick reminder, go to the Hockey Writer at Twitter if you want to follow us there. Tons of good writers, tons of good posts going up there. The Hockey Writer's latest news and rumors is one every day. And then, of course, the Hockey Writers on Facebook. We'll talk to you guys soon, and thanks for joining us until next week.